While the national media continues to ignore Miami, there are people behind the scenes in American football quietly saying that the Dolphins may have landed one of the biggest bargains of the entire offseason. And no, I'm not talking about a superstar draft pick. I'm talking about a player that almost nobody expected to make such a difference so quickly. And here's the scary part. If this gamble pays off, it could completely change the future of the Dolphins defense in ways that fans aren't yet prepared for. Some fans are already questioning whether the roster has truly improved for 2026, while others believe Miami is finally building the kind of depth needed to compete with the AFC elite. But what I'm about to tell you will certainly generate debate among Dolphins fans everywhere. So, before we continue, be sure to click the like button right now if you truly believe the Miami Dolphins can surprise the NFL this season. And I want to see the true optimists in the comments today. Type this right now: Super Bowl season is coming. Come on, Dolphins! Because, after everything I've heard about this Dolphins secret weapon, the excitement surrounding this team is starting to feel very real. Now let's get straight into it. One of the biggest football outlets in the country recently highlighted a Miami Dolphins undrafted free agent as the best fit to actually survive final roster cuts and make the 53-man roster. Not just a camp body. Not just a preseason name. An actual player with a legitimate chance to contribute this season. And the name that keeps coming up is Wisconsin edge rusher Mason Ryer. Honestly, when you really study the situation, it starts making a lot of sense. The Dolphins' edge room right now is far from settled. Yes, Chop Robinson is expected to become one of the key pass rushers on this defense, and there's excitement around Trey Moore as well, but after those names, things become very uncertain very quickly. Miami simply does not have a dominant, fully established edge rotation right now. That creates opportunity. Massive opportunity. And that's exactly why Mason Ryer suddenly becomes one of the most fascinating names on this entire roster. What jumps out immediately when watching his tape is his explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. This guy fires off the snap with real urgency. He plays with energy, aggression, and violence in his hands. His first step is legitimate NFL-level material. There are multiple moments on tape where offensive linemen barely have time to react before he's already disrupting the pocket. That kind of burst cannot be taught. Either you have it or you don't. But here's where things become controversial. If Mason Ryer is this talented, why did he go undrafted? That answer is simple and terrifying at the same time: injuries. The medical concerns surrounding him are serious. After knee surgery following the 2023 season, he reportedly dealt with a bone infection that forced him to miss the entire 2024 season. Then things got even worse. Stress fractures in the same leg during rehab required another surgery in early 2025, and doctors inserted a metal rod into his shin. That's the type of medical history that scares NFL teams away immediately. But here's the part Dolphins fans should pay attention to. Miami didn't spend a premium draft pick on him. They didn't burn a top 100 selection. They didn't spend major money. This is exactly the type of high-upside gamble smart franchises should take. Because if the medical situation stabilizes and he stays healthy, the Dolphins could end up stealing a player who had legitimate draftable talent. And the production backs that up. Despite concerns about finishing plays consistently, Ryer generated 45 pressures last season at Wisconsin and posted a 15.9% pass rush win rate, which ranked among the better edge defenders in college football. That means even when sacks weren't always showing up, he was still consistently affecting quarterbacks. And sometimes that matters more than casual fans realize. Now imagine this player entering a Dolphins defensive system that desperately needs rotational pressure off the edge. That's where this story gets dangerous. Because the pathway to the roster is real. The Dolphins are expected to keep around 5 edge rushers, maybe 6 depending on how defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley structures the defense. That means several spots are still open for competition. Mason Ryer will likely battle players like Max Llewellyn and David Ajabu for those remaining positions. But when you compare raw explosiveness and pass rushing upside, Ryer may honestly have the highest ceiling of the entire group. And here's something else Dolphins fans are beginning to notice. This undrafted class overall might quietly become one of the more important groups Miami has brought in over the last few years. Safety Louis Moore is getting attention because the Dolphins safety room still looks shaky. Defensive lineman Rene Conga has flashed intriguing pass rush metrics from the interior. Running back Le'Veon Moss has real talent if he can stay healthy. But Mason Ryer feels different because edge rushers with elite first-step explosiveness are incredibly difficult to find. Especially for free. Now the pressure shifts to training camp. Can his body hold up through NFL practices? Can he survive preseason games? Can he prove the injuries are finally behind him? Because if the answer is yes, the Dolphins may have stumbled into one of the steals of the offseason. And here's the biggest question of all for Dolphins fans. The scary part about this entire situation is that the Dolphins may not even realize yet how important this undrafted free agent class could become for the future of the roster. Because when you really examine the state of this team heading into 2026, there are holes everywhere that young, hungry players can attack. And Mason Ryer looks like the exact type of player who understands this opportunity might completely change his life. What I keep hearing from people paying close attention to rookie camp is that Ryer's motor never stops. That matters more than fans sometimes realize. Coaches fall in love with effort players during camp battles because those are the guys willing to fight for every single snap on special teams, every rotational rep, every backup opportunity. And when you combine nonstop energy with real pass rushing explosiveness, suddenly you have a player that defensive coordinators start noticing very quickly. The Dolphins desperately need that kind of hunger right now. Last season exposed a major problem with Miami's defensive depth. Too many moments where the pass rush disappeared. Too many moments where quarterbacks had clean pockets late in games. And while Chop Robinson is expected to continue developing into a true difference maker, this defense cannot survive with only one reliable edge threat. That's why somebody like Mason Ryer becomes incredibly intriguing. And honestly, the numbers tell a bigger story than many people realize. A 15.9% pass rush win rate at Wisconsin is not some random statistic. That means he consistently beat blockers even when the final stat sheet didn't fully reflect it. Some edge rushers rack up sacks because quarterbacks hold the football too long. Others create chaos constantly even if the sack totals stay lower. Ryer falls into that second category. The pressure numbers were there. The disruption was there. The explosiveness absolutely showed up. But there's another side to this conversation Dolphins fans need to discuss honestly. Can Miami trust his durability? That's the entire gamble. The bone infection, the surgeries, the stress fractures, the metal rod in his leg. These are not small concerns. One setback could completely alter his trajectory again. And NFL training camps are brutal physically, especially for edge rushers fighting through constant contact every single day. This isn't college anymore. The speed increases. The strength increases. The punishment increases. That's why this training camp battle could become one of the most emotional stories of the offseason. Because fans love underdog stories. They love players who were overlooked. They love seeing somebody prove the league wrong. And if Mason Ryer starts winning reps against veteran offensive linemen during preseason action, Hard Rock Stadium is going to erupt every single time his name gets called. But here's where things get even more interesting. The Dolphins may quietly be building a defense based around rotation and relentless pressure instead of relying on one superstar pass rusher. Jeff Hafley's defensive philosophy has historically involved heavy rotation up front to keep players fresh deep into games. That means the fifth or sixth edge rusher on this roster may actually play meaningful snaps throughout the season. That changes everything for Ryer. He doesn't need to become Micah Parsons overnight. He doesn't need double-digit sacks immediately. If he can simply become a rotational pass rush specialist early in his career, Miami could slowly develop him into something much bigger over time. And let's be honest here, Dolphins fans, this franchise desperately needs to start winning on hidden talent acquisitions again. The great NFL organizations consistently find contributors outside the early rounds. That's how championship rosters stay deep financially. If Miami can start uncovering players like Ryer through undrafted free agency, it changes the long-term outlook of this roster completely. And Mason Ryer is not the only name worth watching. Lewis Moore continues gaining attention because Miami